Well, two playoff teams will meet in Cincinnati on Sunday when the Baltimore Ravens come to town to face their division rival Bengals. Cincinnati is currently installed as a 3-point favorite in this game on BETDAQ. 41 is the total. Now, these teams met way back in Week 1. Baltimore won in a blowout, but this is a different Cincinnati Bengals team. The Bengals have won 6 out of their last 7 games, 6-1 against the spread in those 7 games. Last week they beat Pittsburgh on the road, an outcome that, though many of us thought it might be coming, you could feel it coming, it was just hard to believe. It was hard to really think that Cincinnati was going to beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh in a meaningful game, because over the last, 20 years or so, it seems like in situations like that, the Steelers had always come out on top. But maybe this is a new era for the Cincinnati Bengals, even though they did not score an offensive touchdown in their 13-10 win over Pittsburgh last week. And really, their defense has been playing so well, they've hidden the struggles of the Cincinnati offense during this streak of 6 out of 6 wins in 7 games. The Bengals on offense, they're so reliant on A.J. Green. You know, he brings so much to the offense, one of the best 3 or 4 wide receivers in the game right now. And they've run the ball a lot better in recent weeks with Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis. But a lot of that has to do with the fact that A.J. Green, the threat of A.J. Green, loosens up that defense and they have to pay so much attention to him in coverage. Andy Dalton has been solidly average this year. You know, a lot of praise was heaped on him last year, and certainly Green helps him out a lot too. You have to wonder, at least I wonder, if Andy Dalton were in situations like Jake Locker in Tennessee or Blaine Gabbert in Jacksonville, would he be much different than those quarterbacks? I guess I'm not yet sold on Dalton and not sold on this Bengals offense, though I do think A.J. Green is as big a difference maker as there is in the NFL, right on par with Adrian Peterson and players like that. Now, the defense Cincinnati is another story. They are for real, and they've been playing better and better throughout the season. Currently 6th in total defense, 8th in points allowed. They're good against the rush and against the pass, but they're especially good against the run. Over their last 4 games, they have clamped down. Opponents only gaining 58 rush yards per game over the last 4 games. And obviously the Baltimore Ravens, and the Bengals know this, they're division opponents. Baltimore is going to try to run the ball. Ray Rice is their best player, and they're going to try to get it in his hands. Jim Caldwell took over as offensive coordinator 2 games ago for the fired Cam Cameron. It was a controversial move. I mean, you don't often see a first-place team, and Baltimore is in first place, has been in first place in the AFC North all year. 10-5 now. They locked up the AFC North last week with a win over the New York Giants. But you don't often see a first-place team make a change in one of their coordinators this late in the season. The Ravens did that. The first game did not go well, but last week, 533 yards of total offense against the Giants. That's the most they've gained all season. Flacco was good. Ray Rice was good. They rushed for over 220 yards. But it's going to be a different test this week because the New York Giants have not been playing well on defense. I believe they're 30th in total defense, somewhere around that. And the Bengals, as we mentioned, been playing well, especially against the run. So it'll be interesting. When the Baltimore offense is on the field, especially when Ray Rice is getting the ball, it is going to be strength versus strength. It's going to be interesting to see whether the Ravens are able to run the ball against this front 7 of Cincinnati. I don't think they're going to have much success. I chalk last week's result more up to the bad Giants defense than I do a breakout. I guess it was a breakout performance from the Ravens offense, but I'm not sure the Ravens offense has turned any corner yet. And Anquan Bolden, who he's not their number 1 receiver. That's probably Torrey Smith at this point, but certainly their most reliable receiver, I think. Bolden is questionable this week, and from what we've heard, sounds more doubtful than questionable. Bruised a shoulder last week. Another thing to consider in this game, these teams have both made the playoffs. They're sort of locked in place. I say sort of because things could happen. If Baltimore wins on Sunday and the New England Patriots lose to Miami, which is unlikely, then Baltimore would face Cincinnati again in the first round of the playoffs. But unless that happens, that's probably not going to happen. Everybody expects the Patriots at home to beat the Dolphins. And as long as the Patriots do beat the Dolphins, and Baltimore will be facing Indianapolis in the first round, Cincinnati will be facing New England unless the Broncos were to lose to the Kansas City Chiefs. So there's a few scenarios out there. As long as the favorites win, the favorites like Denver, New England, as long as those teams win, then next week Cincinnati will face New England, Baltimore will face Indianapolis. So in this question in this game, we deal with the question of how long will the starters play? Will any of the players be rested? Now, for his part, Marvin Lewis, head coach of the Bengals, has said that his starters will play the game. He cited 2 previous times since he's been a coach at Cincinnati when the Bengals rested players for their final game of the season, lost in the first round of the playoffs both times. So it sounds like the Bengals are prepared to play their starters and actually try to win the game. And you would think it still stings a little bit, the whipping they took at the hands of Baltimore on national television in Week 1. Baltimore, on the other hand, John Harbaugh was asked about that. He was a little more evasive. He sort of said, well, we'll see how it goes. So I don't expect Bolden to be playing. If this was a playoff game, I'm sure he might play. I don't expect Anquan Bolden to be playing. Don't be surprised if Baltimore, if they fall behind in this game, maybe pull some of their starters. We know the Baltimore defense is not what it has been in years past. They haven't been in the top 20 in the league in total defense all year. I know a lot of that has to do with injuries. And we mentioned the Cincinnati offense has been struggling, but I don't know. I do lean towards the Bengals in this situation. Again, they're a 3-point favorite, and I think that's a reasonable number. I also have a lean towards under 41. I know 41 is a relatively low total, but I expect the Cincinnati defense dominate might be a little strong. I expect the Cincinnati defense to control the Baltimore offense, and I just don't think the Cincinnati offense is explosive enough to turn this one into a rout. So lean towards Cincinnati and the under here.